Hey guys, I'm back again with another upload, and today we'll be talking about more horror stories on this channel. Not just any horror stories, but stories that involved a person or people encountering something paranormal in their own home. Get your heart ready for another tasking session. Let's get into it. Story 1. My wife, Cheryl, and I have been in a relationship for 10 years now. We dated for 8 years and got married 2 years ago. About a month ago, we decided to get a house together, and things couldn't have set out any worse. We moved to a small town in Georgia called Waycross. We purchased a property placed just in front of a patch of woods, one of the factors in our checklist for getting a property. We planned to raise kids and adopt a dog in the future, so we needed a big property for the kids and dog to play around on. The first 2 nights we spent in the house passed by without incident, and because it was a weekend, we spent the entire day unpacking and arranging. Then Monday night came, and then things started to take a turn for the worst. We had just gotten into bed, turning the lights out some 20 minutes ago, before we started hearing the sound of blasting music coming from the backyard. Our neighbors on either side of our house were so spaced out that we couldn't mistake music from their yard being in our yard. It was coming from our yard. It didn't sound like the party music common these days, but like some old vintage song. The windows were closed. After exchanging a glance with my wife, I stood up and opened the window on my side, and the music became clearer. Though we were still getting around the house, I figured there would be a backyard switch somewhere. So I ran downstairs to the back door and flicked the light switch next to the door. One of them turned on the backyard lights. I didn't see anyone in the backyard, so I opened the door. As I walked out, I realized the song wasn't coming from the backyard, but from somewhere in the woods. The song played to completion as I stood outside looking around. When the song ended, there was silence again. I went back into the house and told my wife it was probably a home warming prank. The next night it happened again. A few minutes after we turned off the light in the bedroom, music started blasting from outside, but much louder this time. I looked out the window, and this time I could make out something on the grass, though it wasn't a person. I decided to check it out and went out there to give whoever was disturbing us a telling. As I went out in the yard, I noticed the object was an old radio, and the song was coming from it. I turned it off and looked at my wife through the window. I held up the radio to her, telling her maybe someone had left it. And then her face took a different expression, and she started screaming for me to run. I yelled back, "Why?" And she yelled back, "There are people standing behind you." I turned towards the woods and saw 3 figures standing there, just looking at me. I quickly ran back into the house and slammed the door behind me. I immediately called the cops, and they arrived soon after. I explained everything to them and showed them the radio, telling them they could take it and check for prints, stating I had only touched the handle. They took the radio and checked the woods with their flashlight, kind of as a deterrent to the people. As soon as the police left, we felt vulnerable once more. But if they should come back, I'll try to get it on video. Story 2. I bought my first house around July 2022. My house is a 30-minute drive from my parents' house. When I stayed at my parents' house, I was constantly awoken at night by the steps of my father going up and down the stairs to get various things ranging from water to snacks at night. Getting my place will ensure I get a good night's sleep without any interruptions, or so I thought. For the first few days I was in my new house, my dad came over to help me bring in furniture and set the place up. The bulk of the packing was done after that. All that was left was just some minor decorations and small rearrangements here and there. About a week into moving in, I was practically done with both the furnishings and decorations. On a Sunday night, I could tell I was going to have a rough night, since I had trouble sleeping. I seemed to have inherited my dad's trait as a light sleeper. I took some melatonin and sleeping pills, and I was out within an hour. Usually when I take these pills, I sleep through the night without waking up, but strangely I woke up this night to a sound outside my room. So dazed from waking up from a dream, I wasn't thinking clearly. The sound outside my room was some footsteps going up the stairs. My dad going on his night trip as usual, I thought. I tried to drown out the noise and ignore it, but that's when it hit me that those footsteps couldn't be my dad's. I jerked up and listened, and the footsteps stopped. I went out into the hallway outside my room, turning on the lights with each room I passed. I got to the stairway and looked down the stairs. A tall man with a black mask was standing at the bottom of the stairs looking straight at me. He wasn't holding any weapons, but I was not about to go down there to fight this intruder. I yelled for him to get out of my house, and surprisingly, he turned around and walked out the front door. I ran after him and locked the door behind me. I went to the phone to call my dad, and that's when I heard the back door shut. There was another intruder whom I hadn't seen that was also in the house. My dad picked up and I explained everything to him. He scolded me for not calling the cops directly. I called the cops after that, and eventually they came. The cops asked me some questions about what the intruder looked like and what direction they went towards. But I couldn't hear, because the man was wearing a mask, and I didn't think to watch the direction he went towards as he left. I never imagined I would be the victim of a home invasion, especially not right after I moved into my first house. Now I sleep with a knife next to my bed. Story 3. This happened about 3 weeks ago. It was about 3 in the morning, and I was watching some YouTube videos. I saw my dog's ears perk up as I walked towards the back door. I figured he needed to do a number 1, so I went to let him out. I unlocked the door and was about to open it when my instincts told me to put the lights on first. As I turned on the lights, I saw something darting towards the side of the house. I opened the door to let the dog out, and he ran in the same direction and disappeared into the dark. I grabbed my dad's gauge shotgun and then a flashlight. I looked around, but I couldn't see too far into the distance. I closed the door and stepped out onto the porch, calling my dog's name as I walked toward the direction he ran off to. He soon came back to me and I took him back into the house. When I reached the door, I saw it was cracked open. This sent a chill down my spine because I know I closed the door and I was alone for the weekend. As I approached the door, gun in hand, I could see a light moving around the house. I put my dog on his chain and slowly moved into the house. When I got into the room that the light was coming from, which was my sister's room, I pushed the door in with the barrel of my shotgun, where I saw a man standing holding one of the kitchen knives. I told the man to drop the knife and get out of the house before I shoot him. He quickly dropped the knife and jumped out of the window of my sister's room. I fired 3 shots into the air as a warning. I don't know who this man was, but if he should return, there won't be a warning. These stories are pretty scary just telling them. One can only imagine how scared the people who told them were while they experienced it live. One takeaway from these stories is to always lock the doors to your house before settling in for the night. You never know when an intruder might visit you. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. And consider leaving a like if you found this video entertaining or scary. And subscribing to the channel for more horror and scary stories and events.